Alex, it's been a while.
That's your intro?
Great intro.
In the planning for this episode, we were talking about all this Agile is dead stuff. And again, all three of us have unique and different perspectives on Agile is dead. Whatever happened with Agile. I would like to talk to y'all about if Agile really is dead, like what happens next? What do we all do? And second of all, I'm seeing this thing on social media where people in Agile coach positions, Scrum Masters, I'm not talking about the people that are changing their job role to product management. So I'm talking about everybody else. Like they're out of work for a while, and it bothers me because I feel like being out of work for a while feels like it's like a reflection of your self-worth. And I really want to talk about that in a whole podcast.
Well, my take on it is we got to stop talking about Agile. The ship has sailed. The work's still there. But as far as people are concerned, there's one common language. And all of the folks that were in the Agile have been working in the business. So I think the biggest mistakes right now for anybody in this career is to see yourself as the part of the Agile ecosystem. It is no longer the Agile ecosystem. It is a business. And so what you have to realize is in the end of the day, you are a business consultant. Now, you could specialize in different areas. There's executions, there's teamwork, there is the team topologies, psychology, there's mental aspects, there's product. So there's a lot of facets, how teams operate, how companies function. But everybody that was in the Agile space has been somehow involved with the business. Business consultants are always in need in different capacities. So I think the biggest problem in finding a job is that there are certain terminology that is no longer being picked up by whatever the recruiting engines apply. And so folks find it very hard to find their position of yesterday. You got to figure out what is it that you were doing, what is it that you want to do, and look for opportunities to do that with a different terminology.
Let me ask you a question. You think Agile being dead, if it is dead, it's just a passing fad, or you think it's gone, and whatever comes will be the new thing, the new shiny thing, if it's not here already, what that might look like?
You want to get in on that first? Because I have ideas too.
Oh, I think the terminology is gone. I think we got to drop the terminology. It's giving everybody indigestion. It's overusage. It's commercialization. It's young people. It's the generational shift. Young folks don't want to hear about Agile, right? And so we end up focusing about structure more, but it's no longer the problem. Agile was a structured solution to problems 20 years ago. But the problems have shifted. With the structure, new things emerged, and we're doing things faster. And so we need the solutions for today. How do we get developers to work fast? How do we get to work on the right things? If we are bringing additional tools, and AI is a tool, what does that look like? Who does the planning? How do we do the planning? How do we get the approvals? How do we get all of that? All of these same problems will remain, but we're no longer confined to Agile structure as a solution, as sort of your blueprint of how to get there.
I want to deep dive a little more on something very adjacent to that, which is what are the skill sets then that are needed to take us to the next level, right? But before that, you said you had some thoughts to share on that.
That's all right. I forgot what all the thoughts were. I was a thought leader. Sorry.
A thought leader.
If I was going to seek to tie up what we're talking about now, I would say all of these folks working in the quote Agile positions, I'm really mainly talking about people working in Scrum. That's really what I'm talking about right now. Product has kind of an easy out because you can jump to product management. Marty Kagan's writing books. That stuff's the new hotness. At least it is for right now. I would argue that's on the decline as well. So the whatever just happened to Agilists, I would argue that the product people as well, like their field has become so broad that that meme with like the Grim Reaper going door to door, like product people are immediately after the Agile people. And in fact, you see the AI people segmenting this market as well. It's all marketing. That's basically my diatribe. That's where it's going. This is all marketing. The product people, the Grim Reaper is coming from them next because product people we don't really know what their role is in the business. In the worst businesses, they're just feature managers, and there's no value in that at all. And the people that are not truly empowered with driving business outcomes, they have budgets and the decision-making power and the
and autonomy,
actually autonomously empowered to do what they're supposed to do. I would argue that they're next. And because of so many people like that, all of product management is going to get labeled with that label, and is going to be the next one that is viewed like Agilists are viewed right now. Well, I don't understand what they do all day. What does a Scrum Master do all day outside of 15 minutes after they run
the stand-up? Yeah.
I think it's a little bit different. If a Scrum Master is taking care of the team, right, and helps them execute and coordinates that, running interference and all of those things that are in the Scrum Guide, all of that work is invisible at the executive level. The product manager's job is visible at the executive level, especially if it's an important product, because you take a slice above the execution and it's revenue, users, customer service, churn, all of those things that are bubbled up to the senior level. So you do see that result. Now, you may not care what that product manager is doing day to day, as long as those numbers are positive, but I guarantee you that you will care what happens day to day if those numbers are negative. So that position will get exposure. Now, there's a problem where with the AI, the expectation is that the product manager is not just going to run quote unquote business, but will also be the coder and the designer,
right,
and a million other things.
That's called product engineering now. That's what the role is morphing into. Yeah,
that's right.
Right. The work will never disappear. It shifts. Somebody's going to have to do it. Now, who's going to do it? Is it more responsibility on the engineer? Are we getting rid of our product designers because now product manager can do Figma? So I think those things are questionable. Maybe you'll be lucky enough to find somebody that's a jack of all trades, but usually it's followed with a master of none. Do you need that person, or do you need somebody that's super duper specialized?
I kind of see some parallelism here between what happened with Scrum Masters and Agilists, traditional Agilists, right? Like Agile coaches and whatnot. I can see easily that happening with product owners and product managers. And that's for the same fundamental reason, which is if you have a pulse, you can just take a 2-day class and declare yourself a certified XYZ, right?
Sure.
That, of course, it happened a lot with Scrum Masters, but I'd say it's even happening with product owners too. You're interested in product, right? So the first thing you do is you take a class, and then you come out and say, I'm now a certified Scrum product owner, or whatever the other one is.
Sure. So
experience is what's missing here. Being able to really do the right things when called on, same thing's going to happen, I think, with product.
Well, so Alex, what you pointed this out very early in this discussion point is you do have a lot of people introduced into the field new, basically, that have never done the job before, with a potentially a 2-day class. Like I don't really want to harp on the certification industry that I do want to harp on them, but this is not the podcast for it. Okay, we had several podcasts. We had one with Brent. Is this industry fixable? And I think that was before episode 100. I don't remember how long ago. That tells you how long we've been tracking this thing out of the corner of our eye. But yes, the industrial complex produced a lot of these quote coaches who, if Alex, you're saying, what really are they? They're business consultants. You have this mill that's stamping new business consultants, but they don't have a proven track record in business. When you or I think about, well, because we've talked about this on the podcast before, the way I think about a Scrum Master, like they need to be able to make contacts with people all over the business quickly. They need to be able to ingratiate themselves at the highest levels, C-suite, director level, whatever, depends on how big the organization is, because we rely on those people to bring visibility to the big issues to the people that can help make the change, and then bring those people on board to make the change that we need. Because like the developers on the team, look, I just want to code and do cool stuff, because the organization is set up as clunky as it is, and because like we got all these integration points and whatever, and our day-to-day doesn't interface with the right people. A million reasons why we're not successful, but you got this one person saying, hey guys, I see you're having a problem. I'm going to go get this other person. I happen to know them. I'm going to call the bat phone. I'm going to get Batman on the line. He's going to drop into our daily Scrum or whatever, and we're going to solve it today. because they got the right contact at the right time. This is like the job of sales is what I'm describing right now. It's like you have an internal person who just knows the right person to call at the right time to help get through the problem. I'm not saying they have to solve the problem, but the reason I wanted to have this podcast was, again, you have people that came out through the certification mill, and businesses can't tell the difference between that person with the 2-day certification and the person with like 5 years of experience who actually knows about lean management and organizational design and how software gets developed day to day, understands the point of bringing the customer in for reviews and stuff like that, even though it's painful. And I don't know, like there's an Agile bubble that's responsible for causing this negativity on the term, but I'm having a hard time pulling the two of them apart.
Well, there's a little bit of a difference between new people joining in, like young professionals coming through whatever program, and the experienced folks not able to find jobs. The biggest problem that we have right now is the folks that have contributed for years and years are having trouble finding opportunities.
Right.
And we don't have to talk about certification with them. You have real tangible proof and experience. The problem is that the way they frame their accomplishments and their achievements, they frame it in the Agile terminology. And you need to decouple yourselves from something that's no longer popular. Have they worked in a business? Absolutely. How have they consulted the business to improve? And if you can formulate that way, then there is real value that you can bring to the organization. Now, there are people, again, some people are better at product side, some people at the execution side. There's the business agility side, right, which is more of a strategic side. Then there is the quality side. So you have to find the basis. However, I think there is a big discrepancy on which company they want to go and work in. Previously, you would find small and mid-sized businesses with roles available to do that. Not anymore. Everybody's trying to be lean, so it's really only the enterprises. And enterprises have been shedding the management levels, have been shedding the project management, have been shedding the agility aspects. And I would argue that money is there to hire. They just principally do not want to invest in that area.
I want to pull you into this one because I thought about you immediately when Alex started giving the bullet points here. I thought about, is this a academic theory versus like business practice type of like business experience? Or what is the ROI of having a coach? Like hiring a part-time coach on a consultant. I'm thinking about this from a consultant standpoint. Are all these Agile folks, do they all become business consultants? And then if the market gets flooded with all these business consultants who have these specific skills that we're talking about, like let's pretend like everybody listens to this podcast right here. That's what I'm saying. I can subscribe. That's what I'm saying. If everyone listens to this podcast and I am valuable, how can people pivot their resumes and talk about their stories and engage with people to say, hey, this is the ROI. This is what I can do for your business in ROI in terms of the organizational design and what I can do for your goal setting and all your apparatus of planning and all the stuff that's like that you're probably doing terribly right now, I have to admit.
That's a fantastic question, first of all. And there isn't a simple answer to that, so let's unpack a little bit, right?
People need help, though.
They do need help. So here's the problem. Just piggybacking off what Alex was saying, if you've just had a career in Agile, so to speak, right? It doesn't really matter what your role is, product owner, Scrum Master, or whatever it might be. And if you're continuing along those lines, looking for some work that basically just says, this is what I'm going to do going forward, then yes, your resume is going to say, I've been an Agilist, right? And no one wants to see that today. So that's a big gulf right there. Those people that are successful, what they manage to do is reframe it in a way that people can understand, not just about dressing it up in Agile ease. It's putting it out there in simple but business language. You either save the organization money or you made them money. It's that simple.
Or
now,
protect the
how
risk.
did you do that? How did you do
risk?
that?
Is that what you said?
So the thing about Agilists that are trying to reform themselves, ask those questions, start from there and say, how have I done this in the past for the companies that I've worked for? Forget about I took 5 teams and brought them to a different level of agility. Nobody cares about that anymore, right? So if you reframe that, that's your past. Pare down your resume. You don't need no 7-page resumes anymore, right? 1 page. Pare it down. Get that business mindset and then project forward and say, how can my skill sets allow me to help a business? So think about it like this. Pick 3 different organizations at different sizes in different areas, if you like, business domains, and work out your plan of how you can position your skills to help that business either save money or make money.
And the resume wise as well, take a look history in your history comments on the resume and rephrase from what you did to what you've accomplished in business terms.
Yep.
So it's not, hey, I've helped the team manage the backlog. Nobody cares. Everybody knows how to manage the backlog. But what did you achieve? How many deliveries were you able to push through? What did those deliveries do? What did those releases actually produce? Was that critical? Was that not critical? Did that actually make an impact to the organization?
A long time ago, we did a series. We did a 3-podcast series, and it was basically, number 1 was the Scrum Master's responsibility to the team. Number 2 was the Scrum Master's responsibility to
the product.
And then number 3 was
to the organization.
To the organization. Yeah. And it was very funny because the viewership of the series of the podcast was, number 1, the team, it was like high. Number 2, the product was a little bit lower. And then the organization was like a third of the views of the first one. It was like pretty stark contrast that people aren't really engaged with, like
an org level type of discussions.
Yes,
it's interesting.
Org level type of discussions. Yeah. It was interesting to me at the time, and it kind of also signaled what I see in that role is like when you start interfacing to be like, hey, we can have a bit more efficient org that works together and helps, and like people are like, yeah, I don't care. There's no value in that.
Well, let's take a step back a little bit, right? So.
Okay.
The reason why Agile is picking up all this flack is because the value is subjective, right? I think if we take a look at Scrum, for example, having a Scrum Master or not having a Scrum Master, having Scrum Master role shared, letting the tech lead just do the command and control model and implementation, having a micromanager, and you compare all these models, I think the results are going to be almost identical. I don't think that either of those provide a superior result-based or success factor than any other. So because there is such a multitude way of doing things, and because the results are marginally identical, that's why people are looking at it as, hey, why do we have to commit to this structure? Like, people can deliver software successfully without Agile or Scrum, or create their own or do their own thing. If it works, that was the whole premise of Agile. If small increments and if whatever you do works, don't change it. Keep going with it, right? We don't have to call it Agile.
Sure.
And if you can still achieve that level of success, why do you actually need a structured, disciplinary approach and hire specific roles?
I reacted strongly to what you just said, Alex, so I want to talk about it for a second. That's a nice way of being like, I got hives. What you just outlined is a very compelling case. Hey, if we have a success in whatever we're using, what does it matter? I mean, even in Marty Kagan's latest book, in the Transform book, he's, these Agile people can't help you, right?
Yeah.
Read my book, which is all an Agile transformation book, by the way.
Sure. Exactly what it is.
The Agilists, they understand team topologies, meaning like the book team topologies, like how actual, like, good development teams work when you segment by what the teams are doing, like the value stream teams and the component teams. They understand Conway's law. They understand why you get over a certain number of people and your organization just fails, because Conway's law is kind of like grinding against everything. They understand when they're seeing symptoms of these things at work that action needs to be taken. And then we're saying, well, these Agilists, they're actually like organizational architects. And like that's not a term that's been coined anywhere before. Is like, you have system architects or solution architects or whatever, organizational architects, to make sure that like your organization is broken up to position themselves to do the best work they can do. That's just not a thing. That's like sociology and whatever. And like, corporate America doesn't value that.
But Brian, which Agilists? I've met a ton of Agilists. And there are Agilists that just show up and say, so, what's your status? Right? And unfortunately, most of the market is full of folks like that, where Scrum Master is an easy position to hide inside of a huge enterprise, where you don't actually deliver the value, And I've seen Scrum Masters that just simply pass questions from one source to another, that don't solve anybody's problem. They don't run any interference, that throw the team under the bus every chance they get. And it's that type of culture that is okay. So unfortunately, for the ones that actually know about team topologies and actually care about changing organizations, that is a business consultant.
Right.
Because that person has a much more depth than their own team. They know how organizations work. They've seen a lot of it. Explaining product management to them is not required. They've built product themselves. They know engineering. They know lies when they hear them. You know, it's a different type of professional. So let me ask you a question. Imagine you ran an enterprise and there was a person with this type of skill set. What title would you give him? Forget, you have no agile titles available to that person. What title would you give him? What do you
I give them the title that they have now, which is VP. That's usually or director. It depends on the size of the enterprise. But normally these people...
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. So
normally these people would get a title that is commensurate. Ooh, we haven't said that in a podcast.
That's a nice word.
Yeah. They'd get a title that's commensurate with the concept that they can run an entire business operation. Therefore, they get a title that basically is like a catch-all title that says you are a business leader. And that this is the main one of the reason that this podcast agenda stuck. There's several reasons this podcast as an agenda, as a statement, emotionally, physically. Elm, help me out. Like what?
Psychologically, pathologically,
sociologically, many reasons that this stuck out to me as a podcast that I really want to do is people have convinced the Agile folks, and you made a point that I don't want it to go unanswered, which is there's a lot of people that got the 2-day cert and they really have not done this before, and they're out of their depth. So I agree with you there. Let's put them aside in a bucket for a second, because at the end of the episode, I really do want to ask. And you stayed in consulting much longer than I have. It's the people that are out of their depth. Is that 70% of people? 50% of people?
It's a large percentage.
If it's a large percentage, then maybe it's a problem and we need to talk about it separately. If it's 30% of people and they get their first job and then they get washed out and they can't get back in their career field, maybe it's less of a problem. But if it's 80% of the people out there and businesses just can't tell the difference, then maybe it is a big problem. But the people that have the experience, that can do the job, they are consultant business leaders. They know how development works. They know how to run experiments against the market to figure out if customers really want features or not. And again, what job title would you title those people with? I would title them with, you can run a whole enterprise, so you must be a VP. And I just slap a VP or director title on them and be go figure out what gets success, kid. Go get out there.
So there are different types of VPs.
Yeah.
There are VPs that have entire departments built underneath of them.
Yep.
And there are VPs with just a few people, and they have a very narrow focus in specific areas.
Yeah.
So this sounds like one of those VPs that has the ability to influence all others,
sure,
yes,
or directors, and you expect other directors to work with this director, hopefully not in command and control model, but in a collaborative fashion to help improve other departments in the way they operate. Yeah. Does that sound familiar? 20 years ago, before this whole Agile thing?
Completely
sounds
agree.
like it.
I completely agree. If it's a business and we're hiring people, and maybe I'm hiring someone with a small sliver of staff, maybe they only got 2-3 people under them, developer, designer, whatever. And my thing is, I'm gonna give this VP, go test this market, go expand me in this market, whatever. I'm gonna give them a broad business goal. They have a budget, they have a team, they take themselves, they go figure out how to do it, and they've got everything they need. When you convert all the job titles to quote Agile job titles, everyone loses their mind. The main thing I'm trying to get across in this podcast is the people that have been trying to make it work as a Agile coach with 2-3 teams under them or whatever. You've been learning critical business skills that you could basically take and become a business leader in any other org. So just because you're submitting your resume to all these Agile coach positions or whatever and getting bounced by the random ATS position or HR people that don't even really know what an Agile coach is, or that can't tell the difference between an Agile coach with X years experience and like a person that just got their cert yesterday, just because you're running into these barriers doesn't mean you do not have valuable skills. I would argue you're not leveraging those skills to the right audience in the right way.
You've got to open your mind, first of all, and say, just because I've been an Agile coach or whatever, Scrum Master, fill in the gap, because the situation is no longer the same as it was when you did that. Yeah. And it might be just 2 years ago, or it might be 15 years ago. It doesn't matter, right? So it's having that business orientation. And not a lot of people can just switch like that. If you're a Scrum Master with 3 years experience, all you know is how to work with teams. You can't see yourself above that, right? And that's a problem.
And it's really kind of a disservice that the titles that somebody had historically, even though there's a big amount of experience, have been only the Agile titles. Like, how do you transpose it, right? So, for example, if I was in tech, I could be a senior dev, a tech lead, an architect, right? And in the end of the day, I'm still a dev, right? So I could still pursue that. But I think the biggest disservice that people make is devalue themselves. If they can't find a job, now they're, my skills aren't really needed, so they try to go a little lower, but without recognizing that the skills they possess are actually much more significant. Right. And instead of going lower and limiting yourself to the Agile area only, reapply that as a business consultancy type of skill set, and you can go much higher in the organization. You have more depth than you can offer, and you just got to get rid of the jargon and kind of edit the experience a little bit so that it's clear, not from the agility perspective, but from the business value.
I think it's hard, though, for a lot of people to just get rid of those mental shackles.
Of course.
Because that's what they've done. This is what when you run into those kinds of people, you immediately know who they are, because you ask them, what do you do? And they'll go, BA, but I'm looking for work. As what? A BA. So it's hard to come out of that mold. Now, having said that, people that have been around the block a bit, they can do that. Those people will say, listen, what I've been doing can easily be applied to project management, for example, or vice versa, which actually happened, right? A whole bunch of project managers got redubbed as Scrum Masters. Yeah. But so people can apply their background in different areas. Operations is another one, right? If you're a project manager, you have the skills to meticulously track things. Well, you can be successful in operations. There's no reason why you can't make it. You just have to get away from project management. It's all I've done, and that's what I want to do.
One of the hangups of Agilists is they're stuck in this team level dynamic, and it doesn't necessarily prepare them for the enterprise. Assuming that everyone wants to work in an enterprise level type of, I worked at 30,000 plus, or if you're not working for like a global company with hundreds of thousands of people, you might feel overwhelmed or whatever. But you have like organizational architect in disguise type of thing. It's stuck in the back of my mind from this conversation. Coming from it from a systems thinking approach, you know how to restructure the system to be more successful. So if you were to look at your resume again and revise it to show the impact on the organization in order to look for a different role, like a director role or something like that, like a people leader role. Because that's what I'm thinking about, people that are stuck as a Scrum Master, they're out of work, or stuck as an Agile coach and they're out of work. And what did you really do? The Agile coach and the Agile coach slash Scrum Master for Scrum Masters who manage multiple teams, and the program manager, like those roles are very close together. They're very close together. I would say communications is probably the big leap you need to make organizationally.
Yeah. Imagine you're in the interview and you've come out of a Scrum ecosystem and you elevate yourself to a business role and you're, we'd like to improve the performance of the team. How would you do this? And that's the question you're faced. Well, you have to step away from the Agile thing and say, let's see, what do you guys use now? Well, you're doing Scrum wrong, right? Got to step away from that. You have to understand a little bit more on business basis. Well, what would you like to improve? Is it the speed of deliveries? Why is that costing you? Things are taking too long. Yeah. Well, why do you think that is? Do you have any hunches? Learn to ask more business-specific questions without going too much into the weeds of execution. Folks that worked heavily in Scrum, they tend to jump a lot into, hey, this is the way to do this.
A
This is the
model or
rule
process.
book. This is what the guide says, and we have to implement the guide.
100%.
And then you're sort of going right back into the weeds of where the system already rejected you. So you have to elevate yourself and just go, you know what, I'm going to go a little higher.
Yeah.
What's our goals? How do we reach them? What stands in the way? What have we tried? But don't sink into the kind of the agile jargon into that level. Now, you can understand how teams operate and try to help them improve, but I would try to stay away from attempting to say, hey, let's transform into Scrum. Let's do this implementation. You're doing this wrong.
Yeah.
We have to estimate by points or whatever else. Don't even go there. Try to bring in novel solutions into the business problem space instead of doing sort of the stamping of the Scrum model.
You're so right. I was just thinking about some of the questions you just outlined that could be asked in response to an interview question like that. And first reaction is, if you've been a Scrum Master, the question you'd ask is, well, what kind of velocity do your teams have now? I can improve that. No, don't think about that so much, right? Go beyond that and say, well, what are some of the top 2 or 3 issues that we can talk about where I can really make a difference? Why are those top 2 or 3, right? What's the impact of not improving those, right? Those are the types of questions you could ask. And none of those are at the agile level. They're all at the business level, right? Just trying to understand those and see how you can make a difference there.
A lot of what you guys are talking about right now weaves itself in with lean management principles, which I haven't brought up on this podcast, but I had it in the original show notes that I wanted to bring up. Is, hey, you got all these people that have been trained on and read books on and understand the concepts of, potentially, right? Like lean manufacturing, and like they study lean. If you go all the way back to the lean startup, you know what I mean? They study and believe in the concepts of, we'll just build the MVP to test an idea is good or not. And then we're not going to engage the development team, potentially the most expensive resources in the building, unless we're sure that an idea is sound. So we go from this mode of build it and they will come with the most highest paid persons in the room opinion to this mode of everybody can put ideas into the pool. We grab the ideas and we test the ideas against the market, and then we only put the most expensive, quote, resources. Sorry, I have to keep going. Resources. For the people listening, I'm being super sassy with my ear bunny fingers over here. And so that like the best ideas rise to the top, basically. And they're the ones that get implemented. But in order to move to a environment like that, even saying it, it's a rarefied air up here that I'm breathing, because like most organizations, if you can get past the egos and all the stuff to even get to an environment where you're saying everybody puts their ideas into a pot and then we test the ideas and then only the best ideas make it into the actual product that developers produce, right?
As soon as I hear that, immediately the first thought in my mind is portfolio management and program management. Right back where we started with the old legacy enterprise, attempting to do things at scale from multifaceted departments and organizations, bringing that into the one priority queue and creating this community-based voting system of internal blah, blah, blah. And this is the stuff that we wanted to walk away from, right? And created sort of like the models of startups within the enterprise, and now we're right back to the enterprise world of, hey, let's throw it all into one bucket and start voting.
The funny thing about me like trying to lobby for like lean manufacturing in this category is also I hear the other side of it in my head when I'm lobbying for it. Is like, well, nobody getting like a 2-day certification is going to understand anything about like lean manufacturing and what it really takes to consider the entire system rather than like just your team, because you can't just look at your team and how they plug in. You got to look at the whole system, because you're not optimizing for one team or another team. You're optimizing for the system. I used to have a CEO way back in the day. When you optimize for one team, de-optimize for another. He would say that all the time. But now, much later in my career, you need to get your teams together, or maybe reps from each team, and kind of talk about what you're doing with the system overall. And that's the point of scaling your big sessions, where you have reps from each team. So you're not optimizing process for one team and de-optimizing for other people. and kind of just moving the problem around inside of your manufacturing development.
Some of the stuff you just talked about, which kind of like knowing how to experiment, getting validation, getting the right signals from your customers before you build a solution for them, kind of flies in the face of the new thing now, right, which is build first. It's cheap, right? We build using AI, so build 50 things. Maybe somebody will buy one of them. I just don't feel right to me, you know?
Well, if you build that many things, you got to find that many users and customers to test it.
But these guys aren't testing. They're simply throwing things at a wall,
and
right?
See what sticks, what becomes more popular.
Right.
Essentially, it's almost like selling certain things to a few customers and seeing if they pay for it, but not actually waiting till it scales.
Right.
And placing those bets so lightweight where I get it, you can test it out, but I think they're going to get a lot of false signals.
This is like 2000s development right here. This is the way it was way back in the day.
Oh, you mean the .com? Let's just build everything, or the next one, everything's an app?
This is the way it was at the start of my career. Just build it because like anybody could just throw up a website and make $1 bajillion. Or whatever, like a simple web app. That didn't pan out for a lot of people.
It did not. I think it's an enabler that made it happen. The catalyst here is AI. People can just come up with stuff that they can vibe code really fast, but that's not dollars and cents. No one's going to pay for that. So their answer is just build more of it and they'll pay for something.
I have a whole nother podcast, Alex. Just to let you know, I have a whole other podcast, which is something along the lines of the speed through the development team. That was never the problem.
I agree. If you really needed to prototype something, you got a couple of really good guys or gals, and you just go to town, and in a few weeks they can give you whatever you need. You're good enough to test, and you know, if you had to have a roadmap for your prototype, something's wrong,
sure,
right? So usually it took just a few weeks and a couple of really good people to put it together.
I mean, I would argue if you don't need to support it or maintain it or whatever, like a couple hours, and you probably could have something up and running. If you don't have to support it, most development teams are not engaged that way. Ohm knows on the podcast, I'm a big, you build it, you own it. My team can maintain it and still have a nice work-life balance. I don't create software that's going to fall over all the time. You know what I mean? That's just a core belief. That's just a core principle that I have as a person that I got from working on development teams for many years and being up in the middle of the night and stuff like that. But if it's a greenfield and we don't have to maintain anything, we just turn it off at the end of the workday, turn the instance off. You know what I mean? That's a different type of development.
It is, and it doesn't even have to be an actual app, right? It could just be a Figma mockup.
If you have the customer. So
yes,
let's take a moment to step back. Lots of startups.
Yeah.
Ton of startups. AI, ubiquitous. How come there's not more success?
You know what's missing in this equation? The customer.
Absolutely. So now the enterprise does what? The startups are making same mistake. We build more, but who do you give it to? In reality, the enterprise model for building new things was always, we understand that pain. We spoke to a lot of customers. We really know, measuring against the competitor, there is this market opportunity. What we will do is we will allocate the budget to build a quality product to go after that market. And we already have a couple early customers that are willing not only to try it, but to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And that used to be the basis for investment within the enterprise, right? What's happening now? Oh, we got devs. Let's just let them build stuff. But who's going to go ahead and implement? Who's going to apply? And remember, customers, they're just like regular people. They get tired of being pitched too many things too often. Eventually, they will get tired, or they will start prioritizing what goes first, what goes second. Yeah. Their attention deficit is going to start increasing. And what will happen is, over time, nobody's going to care that you can produce 3,000 little minor niche apps. In the end of the day, they will want a comprehensive, something that really addresses the bigger problem. And that will take time to build. No AI will be able to solve that right out of the box because we're only building niche solutions for small, specific little things. Complex software will not go away. Business problems are complicated.
Right.
Even AI won't be able to find the right solution because sometimes even we can't. So, right. And AI, it doesn't create anything new. It only copies on basis of what it knows. And those bets, after they don't play out, what are you going to do? You're going to place more bets? I mean, I've written more software that sits on the shelf unused in my entire life. Software I was proud of, but never got used.
100%.
And I'm sure this trend will continue because not everything that you build will be a product that will turn into something.
Right. How does that make you feel when you create something like it's great software, and then like it just doesn't get adoption because a million different reasons it just doesn't get
frustration, disappointment,
super annoyed.
It just shoots the mojo out of you.
It sure does.
If you're a passionate engineer and you love this stuff, like truly love this stuff, the number one gratification is that somebody's using it.
Yeah.
Right? Is that there are people that value it and recognize you for doing a good job.
Right.
Even by name. Hey, I was involved in that project. I was involved in this project that's still used to this. I mean, talk about the folks that built software for printers. And you meet them nowadays, they're retired and stuff, and you talk to them, oh, yeah, I was on the Lexmark team, and we built the firmware to print those very first blah, blah, blah. And they're fascinating people, and you respect them for that. I mean, like, my mother is a COBOL programmer. She talks about things building on mainframes. Folks don't really do a lot of development on that.
Taking pride in something you had a hand in.
Absolutely.
It goes even beyond software. One example is certain vehicle manufacturers, right? They will have the person who built the engine stamp their name on the engine. It's there in perpetuity. It's like the VIN number. You know, when they see a customer paying for that vehicle, and say, I actually had a hand in that vehicle, right? Yeah. I mean, that just swells, right? I mean, this is real. This is the intrinsic motivation that individuals have.
I remember my first job as an intern. I was part of a single point security. It was sitting on VB script, and I built reports of organizational structure, like departments and people and all that. I remember coding VB script along with JavaScript to produce like a pretty picture of a report. I was proud of that deeply. Like I would print it and show it at home. Look, this is what I built. The same feeling stays. And there's nothing more discouraging than software that you just crank out and does nothing. Yeah. But we live in a different world. If AI is building that stuff, do you have any kind of care for what it did? Not really.
Yeah.
Until maybe you made a couple million immediately by selling it. And then you're off to your next ideas. There are entrepreneurs out there that launched 100 companies. None of them succeeded. And they're still cranking out more. And they're big idea man. But, you know, in the end of the day, they're not swayed by any way that things failed.
The lean principles can work. Like they're good. And they really do work when allowed to work. Right, when not interfered with. That's the Deming. Deming calls it meddling.
Meddling, yeah.
Or in the perfect environment, would you say?
It doesn't even have to be perfect. It's an environment free of
meddling and constraints, basically.
Meddling being, I mean, as an executive, you really have a lot of control. In the prep for this podcast, I talked a lot about management coming in and saying, oh, Brian, we really love your team and everything you're doing is great for the organization, but we're going to reduce your budget by X amount of dollars per month. And I'm like, that seems like a really specific number down to the number of cents. Why is that? Why are you telling me that number? Oh, because we're removing this person from your team. It sounds like you don't care whether we're productive or not. You wanted to remove this person from our team because it's not like you're following up your decision with any kind of metrics to say, we removed this person from Brian's team and therefore the team we put them on was productive or not. Because I would argue if Brian's team and the team you're removing the developer from are equal importance, and you remove somebody from Brian's team, move them to this other team, and because you introduce a new person to the other team, and because you took a person off of Brian's team, both teams now suffer for X number of months until they rebuild their ways of working, basically. You, as an organizational planner, first of all, they're not organizationally planning in this example, they're financial planning. There should be a metric that the person who made that financial decision should be held to say, hey, you made a financial decision to move money from this line item to this line item, and it affected these teams this way. Therefore, get out of my office.
There is no extrapolation of the performance to your team topology or setup or number of people. We don't baseline those things. If we had the data, there would be a completely new revelation that meddling does impact things. And in preparation for this podcast, we also talked about the impact of layoffs and how they're continuing. And I would argue that totally unnecessary. These companies are making money. They're cutting staff, but they have plenty of money. And as funny as it may sound, they're not even impacting the market share or shareholder value that much by trimming those resources. I question what motivation is being driven. I doubt it's cutting low performers. I don't know. It's not really clear.
Maybe one reason is, like you said, they're making money, right? So by cutting staff, you're directly impacting your bottom line, right? You're saving money by saving all those salaries. If you're not paying people's benefit and salaries, those are savings right away.
But not immediately. So like a lot of companies, they would realize only those savings like a year or two after. Because
they can project that for our next quarterly report, financial report, we are doing fantastic because now, in their statement that they release, they can say our operating costs are lower.
But that's short-term financial manipulation rather than actual value.
Which is what everybody's doing, right?
As soon as you threw this out as a conversation point, Alex, the first thing that came to my mind, and it really hasn't changed with your back and forth, is that's what everyone else is doing. It's a FOMO. It's like everyone else is doing layoffs. Like if I'm Google and I'm looking around the market and it's like Meta's doing layoffs and whoever else is doing Amazon or whatever market. I don't want to be left out of this. I should also do layoffs. And also you have a little air cover of there's some games being played as well.
The unfortunate side of it is at the end of the day, it isn't just numbers on spreadsheets. There are real human beings people, with families impacted by that.
That would be the real issue.
Yeah, the sacrificial pawns are real.
You got to get over having a conscious home. That's what I'm trying to tell you right now.
I was born with one. I can't help it.
It's a big problem. I want to move us into the end of the podcast to ask the toxicity with the term Agile. If Agile really is dead, like if that's really where we're going here, can the brand be saved? Okay, and if the answer is no, then where does everyone go?
The brand has to be either saved or morphed into something, right? Just replace it with something. Pick a word. People are being lithe, they're not agile. Nimble, whatever you want to put, it doesn't matter. The core principles of what we used to call agility, they don't change. They still work. Small teams, rapid feedback, all of those things work, right? Avoid the tyranny of annual financing, finance products instead of budgets only or projects. Those things work, right? So in practice, you apply them. You don't use agile jargon. And as we were saying at the beginning of the podcast, orient yourself to using business terminology, which business people understand, hopefully.
There was a Agile manifesto, right, in 2001. I'd like to see an Agile postmortem. Unadulterated way of getting whoever's available from the Agile manifesto to actually honestly say what worked, what didn't. Stop hiding behind the veil of marketing. Step away from the fake stuff, from your case studies and BS that have been propagated all over, and have a true reflection of the world today after the impact of Agile. There are things that improved. There is entire disciplines like product management that emerged.
Sure.
There are things that got worse when the impact to the folks that actually embraced the discipline. I think I would love to see that because there are way too many arguments. Even the same heroes, same 17 heroes, a lot of them conflict with each other about who said what, about the principles, about things like that. I think it would be great to bring them all together and do the Agile postmortem. We need, if we are to preserve that brand and agility and actually recognize it, I think we got to start consuming what we're producing and actually give back by explaining what worked and what didn't. And if we had a way of changing it, how would we do it?
That's interesting because, well, first of all, I personally don't believe that's ever going to happen.
I agree with you.
Because these people have already moved away from the original manifesto. So again, without naming names, I can tell you people have come up with their own little models here and there. These are the same people, and it's not the same model. It's not like they're all gravitating towards the same thing. Or of the 17, not all of them are alive also right now. But that's not it. They're not going to do this because this has been a cash cow for them.
Exactly.
And it continues to be a cash cow. So if it's not going to happen, then what? Maybe something else needs to rise as a movement.
Yeah.
Whatever that might be. And I don't see the traditional Agilists coming up with that, because people will have a trust issue there.
Yeah. I think the trust issue, I think the scattered attention. People believe too many different things. It's a lot harder in the enterprise and startup space to be unique without receiving a lot of criticism. Some people will obviously adopt certain things, like Marty Kagan's being recognized. I think it's repackaging of the ideas for the most part. I don't think there's anything super new that can be created, but we've learned, right? What did we learn? Move small, get feedback, right?
Yeah.
But do we need a Scrum Master for that? Right. And that's where kind of the reality, and back to the beginning of the podcast where we are now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you nailed the outro right there in the summary. I agree with everything you just said, Alex. The main reason that I wanted to push this up as a podcast was I just have this feeling that if the Agile careers, quote, air quotes, Agile careers are over, and like you just can't use the word, quote, Agile anymore, that forces you to relook at the work that you were doing outside the scope of this, if I'm going to call the Agile Manifesto a marketing thing in the first place, to convince companies you need to stop doing this big project management, multi-month, nonsensical process, and I'm going to market my way around saying that's not cool anymore. The Agile Manifesto was a marketing scheme to convince companies that the way that they were developing products was, quote, not cool. If that was successful, what I'm saying is, okay, that ran its course. Now you need to take the value that you've been delivering to companies, and without hiding behind marketing buzzwords, you now need to refactor your resume and show real business impact and remarket yourself as a different, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. I wish at the end of the podcast I could tell people, you're a business consultant now. Just put consultant on the top of your resume and go out there, kid, and get it. I'm not sure if that's the right term, but I am sure that those skills, those business leadership skills that you've been practicing as a, quote, Agilist, whatever your role has been, that they're valuable. They are valuable. I am convinced they're valuable.
Yep, I agree with that. I think as an Agilist, doesn't matter, again, without kind of regard to roles, Scrum Master, Product Owner, etc., you find a situation that you encounter and you do things and you hope to leave that situation in an improved state, right? So what is that? That's changing. I mean, you're really a change catalyst, although that's not really a title that anybody likes, but focus around what is it meant to the businesses that you've worked with as opposed to at the team level. Forget about fake metrics, or vanity metrics as we call them. Forget about all of those. I mean, they were done a long time before, but now they're truly buried, right?
Sure.
Nobody cares about your CFDs. I mean, they're good as far as tools to improve, but they're not something you lead with when you go in an interview, right? Velocity and all the like.
What the Agile community is missing is redefining the Agile track. Back when we were starting the careers and I went into computer science, my sister went into information systems. We all had a different career track. Her career track was QA project management. That was the career track in information systems. Yeah. My career track as a computer scientist was engineering development, architecture, engineering manager. Somewhere along the lines, the track allows you to jump different areas. Project manager allows you to jump to program management or engineering management. The software developer has a lot more variety. They can continue along the engineering route, principal architects, et cetera, so forth. They can stay on the development side. They can jump into executive side. There's a lot more versatility, security, et cetera. I think the agility is the one that doesn't really have a track. It was always a one path. Boom, agile, right? Yeah. And that needs to be redefined. What is that track? Now that we've reached that last step on the rung that's no longer available, where's the next one going? Yeah. And I think as we talked about, it is back into the business consultant, it is back into the directorships.
improvement.
But don't look down, look up. You can do a lot more if you step away and just think about the impact you've driven.
Right.
You can lead organizations, you can help them run products, you can help with quality, you can help a lot of things. You just have to stop sprinkling the Agile jargon all over the place because nobody cares anymore.
So I don't know if we have declared Agile completely dead as a brand in this podcast, but I think what I said in the podcast holds true, which is the skills and experience, especially the experience that anyone listening to this has, the taking teams from like teams off camera to teams on camera type of like developing the team. Like those are real skills that you have done that because you can't get a job now for 6 months, 8 months, whatever, because like these Agile jobs you're looking out for have disappeared. That's not a reflection that you're not valuable.
Right.
Like I want to tell people and let people know, okay, hey man, it's like stop despairing. You have solid business leadership skills that you learned through doing it, and you've learned through experience, most importantly. And yes, maybe the people that you're interfacing with don't value them. Go find other businesses. Maybe they only value them like 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week consultancy or something like that. There are businesses out there that need your help. Get out there and find the people that need your skill is my main thing that I'm trying to get across in this podcast. Again, that's the main seed that I wanted to have this podcast. Thanks to Alex for coming out and weighing in, because I didn't just want to be ranting at the camera for an hour on this podcast of, hey man, you is kind and you is special. Like I wanted to listen, like you have skills.
No, it's great. It's great being there. Being here with you guys. The topic is important. I think Agile will have a long tail. It's too finely ingrained everywhere. It's very important. It's not going to disappear. However, the traditional roles that fill it will be less and less available.
Sure.
So we'll start transitioning to something else.
Mm-hmm.
AI will not replace that thought. However, there's going to be some conversion to different roles. But I agree with you. Every Agile professional has a lot more value than what they're able to describe, at least in the terms that everyone has been.
Right.
It's not about backlogs. It's not about Jira. It's not about tickets. It's not about all these things.
Sorry, did you say it's not about Jira?
Oh, yes, I did. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a special sound effect. That
Yes.
It's a special sound effect.
All right. So those of you that are still with us, both of you, don't forget to like and subscribe and let us know down in the comments below what other topics you'd like us to tackle. And thank you for coming.